Okay, now we are recording. Here it is. Okay, all right. We're already having too much fun with this thing.
We are.
Okay, we are recording now, finally, after 3 attempts. Now, let's introduce ourselves. So, Lena, you were starting. Let's start with you. Just tell us who you are and kind of why you're with us today.
Sure. My name is Lena Medina, and I am in the second semester going for my master's degree in organizational leadership. I have had the privilege and honor to be in a few of your classes, and so I wanted to jump at the opportunity to meet with you guys. And, you know, I know Val from another class as well, so I'm excited for what we're about to create today.
Absolutely. Lena Medina. And I love that name. Okay. All right, Val.
Medina. Hi, everyone. I'm Val. I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited for the knowledge that we're going to share with you guys. And hopefully it's some gems and some tokens that you guys can take and apply to your own life, professionally as well as personally. So I'm a business organizational leadership student, second semester as well. Yeah, I think that's it.
And I want to preface by telling our audience that we have had a conversation before, and the three of us, it really is a cool dynamic. And so that's why I asked both of them to be on the podcast, because I knew we'd be able to have a cool dynamic. So we're talking about this idea, service, right? And so how we've talked about it in the class, I really believe this, that for-profit, nonprofit, if we have a service mindset, which is a mindset that says I'm going to benefit you, and that benefiting you is going to benefit me, right? I really believe in this. So what we're talking about this, which will lead into next week, where the class, not you two, well, no, actually all of us, you guys don't have to do this podcast. Everyone's going to have to write 7 questions on how do they know what their mission in life is. So I just want to throw it out. How does a person discover their mission in life?
Yeah, well, I want to start because, it's something that I learned. Mission is not, first of all, it's the hardest thing, but it's the easiest thing. The mission is going to start with yourself and your own placeholder, where you're at in life, right? And we all come from different seasons and different backgrounds and different dynamics, and also from different sort of struggles in life. And so all that is such a beautiful mess that allows us to sort of get together and say, where do I start and what do I feel? What parts of me do I like? What parts of me can I improve? Or do I even want to improve, right? So I think that figuring out mission. So again, you should probably remind everybody, I had to learn this too. The mission is the steps. It has to do with the steps to get to your goal. Is that something that you guys all agree with here?
Yes, yes. Well, they have to agree in this class, because that's just what we're doing. It's the purpose is, right? The purpose is why we exist. The vision is where we're going. And the mission, I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of organizations and people get it wrong. They think the mission is something. It's a statement. It's the steps.
It's a statement. Yeah, it's steps.
And you would say it starts with us as a person, right?
It does. It starts with yourself as where you are, and what is your plan to get to your mission. That's, I think, my takeaway.
Absolutely.
And then I think
Valerie.
I've always saw it in correlation with the vision. So for me, it's like, if you don't know your steps, then you don't know where you're going. And I think that was the hardest part for me, is if I don't have a clear target on what I'm trying to accomplish, whether that's in a business setting or as well as in a personal setting, then I can't even create the steps to actually get to that point. So I think those are the gems, is once you start to identify it. And I think that gets so complex, because it also goes into the conversation of purpose, right? Your mission and your purpose, is there an alignment in that? And I think that we're all still trying to discover step by step what that purpose is. But I think it becomes a journey of flow when you start to identify how you align with those things. And I think part of the discovery in that is, what's that yearning in you? Like, what do you naturally gravitate towards? Is that people? Is that circumstances? Is that, and then start to kind of debunk those things, right? So that's kind of how I would start to identify those steps in your mission.
Yep. Clear steps are key.
Absolutely. And you brought up a really good point too, Val. This class is a service-based class, so we talk about our mission in this class. But the other one-unit classes is where we kind of hit on that, the principles, values, and purpose and vision, right? The purpose and vision are in, well, it's in the purpose class, right? The 6048P. So here's a question I want to pose to both of you. If someone is just taking this class and they haven't really thought about their purpose or vision yet, which, like you said, I think are so important to the mission, how can someone be able to do what we're talking about if they haven't really stepped into that purpose vision aspect yet? If they haven't really thought about that.
Oh, that's a good question. I, I would start with what you love, right? What do you love to do? What do you love to do that's going to serve others? What do you love to do that's going to bring you happiness with very, very little effort? Like, oh, I happen to do makeup really, really well, and I would do it for free. So just sort of dissecting and playing with those types of things, like what do I do that
Why is it important?
that I
You
love?
said something really important. What do you love to do that serves others? Why is it important? Lena, why would you say serving other people? Why is that an important key for you?
For me, it's because it feels effortless. It feels, and depending on your faith-based, right? I chose Point Loma for a reason. I believe in Christianity. It's serving a purpose and working toward something that you love with very little effort because something big is coming. Haven't you guys ever been like in struggles or in seasons in life when you're like, oh, that's okay because I'm going to do this and something else will come around for me. So that's kind of how I look at it. Plus, it's really, really hard for me as a person to fake something if I absolutely despise doing it. I just can't do it. I'm not a faker. I can't do it.
You put it all out there.
I do.
JC,
It's important.
I'm like, can we propose the question back to you? What have you seen in, like, if you say you have no background, let's say you're coming into it not with the knowledge that you have, but just as a learner, what are those steps that you would start to figure out in order to get into that mission?
To get to the mission, if I haven't looked at the purpose and vision yet, you're saying?
Yeah.
I think both of you nailed it. And you said it earlier too, Val, where you said, Lena started us off by saying it really starts with us, right? We've got to go deep on who we are. But then you also talked about how finding that thing that we're passionate about. And so I think it's hard for me to answer this question, honestly, because I'm so grained into that purpose, vision, mission, like, and I know what mine is, but and I would say my life was so complex and so disorganized and chaotic before I figured out my own purpose, vision, mission, right? And now it's much more calm. And for someone who doesn't know, I think they probably have to, at least even for this assignment, do a little bit of work around that purpose and vision, right? Where
yeah, and it's okay to not know all the answers,
it's okay not
right?
to know all the answers.
It's okay for us to sort of point out what's happening right now, because that's probably how a lot of us feel. It's okay to not have all the answers right now. There's something beautiful in that.
Val, respond to that, because I have so many.
I was going to add,
Lena. That's a great statement you just said.
I was going to add to, well, one of the concepts we were talking about was that brought into mind to me is like, why serve others? Why is it so important for us to give back to other people? And I think that it could look different when you come from an environment where that's where you've seen, that's what people do. And so you naturally kind of are programmed and fall into that role. And you say, hey, I've seen my parents or my siblings or an environment where that's what you do. You naturally give. Or if you're coming from a setting where you don't see that, I think that's where that question becomes stronger question to answer, because where you come from an environment where you're in survival, where you take care of yourself, you're almost self-serving, like everything I do is from the ground up. I'm the one that makes things happen. I'm the one that paves the way for everybody else. I think that's when it becomes those challenging questions that I think you end up answering or coming back around to the same thing of serving others, because you only get so much gratification from being a self-serve mission. It's only as far as you can go, where I always used to think, where people are like, oh, when you go to that house in the top, it's lonely. I always used to get that feedback. Oh, when you get to the top, it's lonely. And I never understood that concept. And now that I've reflected, it could be lonely for multiple reasons, but I think one of them is what makes you connected and stay in community is when it's a service beyond yourself and it's service to other people. When you can bridge those gaps and start connecting with people because, hey, I have something to offer you, not because I need anything from you, but because I've
Facts.
developed myself enough where I want to just give you the fruit of what I've developed. I think
And
life has, go ahead.
yeah, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I wanted to add, and how cool would it be if what you're giving to others, you absolutely love it? It's easy for you.
Yeah.
It's just easy for you
Yeah.
because you love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think even to add on to that, it becomes this beautiful cycle of reciprocity. Just what you give out, you end up getting in return, sometimes 10 times more, but you
Love it.
don't do it with that feeling of wanting to get something in return. You just do it because you're in that state of flow, like we were both talking about. It's like that passion, what you love, what you just feel like you could do blindfolded, but it just feels so good to you. And so that's when you were talking about serving or like why do we serve? I think whether it's from the environment of what you've seen or you haven't, you end up coming back to the answer yourself.
Okay, so this is so phenomenal. And so I have a question I want to get to, and I'd love for both of you just to think about this. You said something, Val, you just said something really important. If we come from environments where it's just been survival, it is hard for us to think about serving other people, right? And I
Yes.
will tell you, I'm going to be transparent myself and say that that's what I grew up in, right? You just hit a
Yeah.
nerve with me personally because this is a constant battle that I'm in every day is JC, give, not take, give, not take,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
when we come from situations where it's consistently survival, so here's my question I'd love for both of you just to kind of riff on. How does someone in our class or whoever's going to listen to this, if they grew up survival, they don't know about that service mindset, how do they switch to that? How does someone switch to a service-based mindset of serving the world around them?
Yeah. Well, one is taking accountability and saying, it's okay that I feel guarded. It's okay that I feel like
Mm,
life's been tough to me. It's kicked me in the teeth.
Mm.
And, in one way or another, whether it's mentally or physically or just professionally, we've all suffered these sort of points in life where you can start by saying, it's okay. I kind of want to admit I feel like a taker, like who's in that room? What's in it for me? I'm not going. I've done that plenty of parties. I'm like, oh, I don't belong here because what's in it for me? I can't give. I can't be giving all my blessings away, but it's your mindset, it's your attitude, it's your beliefs, and you can shape that. You can sort of make that into a softer place,
And
even though you've been through challenges.
and so you'd say it starts with accountability and how does someone take that who's not maybe not used to thinking in this way or
Yep. By saying like I've had it rough, or I've had it challenging, or I feel like something has been done to me, but it doesn't define me and it doesn't define my future either. I
Mhm.
can do something about it to come out of this a
Mhm.
better, brighter, more loving person. But that's for you to decide, not Prof JC, not some person on a podcast, not a letter of recommendation. Do you believe that? Do you believe that you deserve better than where you are right now?
Wow,
Mm.
starts with accountability. Build on that for us, Val. That's really good. So
Yeah.
the building block is accountability, that first one. What's the second thing someone has to do, or what's the next thing, or whatever?
Yeah. I would say the underlayer of getting to that accountability is the pain. I think it's when you start to reflect, I don't like how my relationships are going. I don't like how my professional life is going. I don't like the fruit of what I'm harvesting is not a reflection of what I feel I deserve or what I'm worthy of. And so I think it takes that, you'll start taking that accountability once you start feeling the pain of not having the outcomes that you want. And I think I've answered or asked myself many times, like, can we get to this place where we have this spurt of growth without the pain? And I think
Mm.
we see it in multiple areas, whether that's like in fitness, right? Like when you're building muscle, you're going to be sore. So it's the natural friction of that concept. And I think it starts spilling into other areas. And I think one of them is this area is you're not going to be able to um, fully be able to get out of that survival mode and get into that mode of giving and serving until you realize, hey, what I feel like I'm worthy of or what I think I represent is not being reflected on the outside world.
Mm.
And that's almost going to be the rocket to be like, okay, this needs to, something needs to change. And you can always keep blaming the outside sources like, this person needs to change, this environment needs to change. But you'll keep running into the same issue. You're going to keep facing the same thing over and over until you realize that the story always starts within. And I think once you realize that is where you can take that accountability and say, oof, okay, now this is step one. Let me take accountability that I've been the creator of what is outside of me.
Good points, Val. That was great.
Incredible points.
Right.
This past, I just want to put an example to this real quick, and we'll keep diving in. This past weekend, Val knows this because she's one of my classes. I was in Kansas City. I was working with a group of iron workers. This is my second time to be back there. And the first time I went, it's doing training for these guys. And these guys are roughneck, like salt of the earth, blue collar iron workers, right? And they're foremen, right? So they're strong. And so I went the first time. Long story short, I didn't do my very best. And so my consulting partner and I were having dinner afterwards, and I'm just diving in. And it goes back to what you just said, Val, where I was showing up with I'm self-reflective enough, and I've done this enough to know, okay, if something doesn't go right, what you just said, if the results aren't what I wanted them to be, it's something in here, right? So I was enough to sit over at dinner and say, okay, the results weren't what I wanted them to be. I didn't show up the best. What's going on in here? And I was able to do a deep dive. Okay. Now this past weekend we go out and we go to Cracker Barrel. Have you guys ever been to Cracker Barrel? I know
no.
You never.
No. Thank you.
It is not the healthiest place at all.
No.
Definitely not. I shouldn't need to be bragging about it, but no.
Sorry for answering so quickly. Sorry.
Val,
Sorry if that offends anyone. I apologize.
Cracker Barrel?
I have no filter.
No.
So we're sitting there over some chicken dumpling, whatever, and so David is giving me some encouragement. And basically the biggest thing is when you show up tomorrow, it's about other people, right? It's not about you. So I was able to do some inner work on myself, showed up, and it was a total game changer. And what I got back was so much different. I didn't get too much because these are foremen. They're not going to stand up and give you, but what the room did and what we were able to do because we showed up with that mindset of service. But like you said, Val, I think it's real important. I had to do some inner work first to realize that when I first showed up, it wasn't what it needed to be. But I was able to do the inner work and realize, okay, what's going on inside of JC that I need to fix before I go back in there again and meet with these guys. And so that's what started off, right? So it comes back to that. I think what you're saying, we have to be, I don't know what the right word is. We have to be centered. We have to be healed. We have to understand that there's pain underneath that, right?
Yeah. Can we go more
right?
into that? Like, what's your guys' idea on that concept of pain? Do you believe, like, in order for there to be growth, that we have to go and endure some kind of pain?
Lena, what do you think?
I do. I would never undo any of my challenges or suffering, right? And this goes back to even biblical times. The pain that I feel and the challenges that I go through will only make me better. And that's just how I believe it. It's maybe my formula in order to grow. And yes, I would say I need to go through challenges in order to grow and become stronger, better, or even sometimes just more wise. Haven't you seen certain scenarios where you're like, oh, I've seen this before. No, thank you, right? In any scenario, especially professionally, especially with leaders. Like, oh, no, this is not the direction I want to go in or what I want to endorse or support or project off as a leader for myself. So sorry, going back to, I think that pain, I think we should embrace pain and say like, and it sounds like a bad word. It's almost like the word of there was another word that was going on.
It's a four-letter word. It is a four-letter word, right? Pain, right?
It's scary. And nobody wants to sign up for that. Nobody wants to endorse that.
Right.
That's what I was going to say. So I love that you said that, because that's the other question is not a lot of people want to endorse that. So is it changing the word? If we're all agreeing here, and JC, I would love to hear your opinion, but if we're all agreeing that pain has to happen, but a lot of people are avoiding that pain, is it because we need to change the terminology, or how do we start creating a society who embraces that instead of goes against that fear?
That is such a great question. I don't know, Lena, you got something I need to chew on. That's a great
Yeah,
question.
it is. It is profound. It's profound, and it's a topic that makes us all
And
a little uncomfortable.
it does. And Lena, here's the thing too. Val,
Yeah.
you posed that question, but we're living in a day and age where the generation that's out there today doesn't necessarily like pain. Maybe we understood it different years ago. I don't know, who am I talking to? You're part of this generation, Val. I guess it's more. So
And
maybe that's,
mind.
I'll put back that, on you in a second, kind of this generation does everything it can to avoid pain. Again, I'm going to go back to this weekend. David was calling out this thing. I forget what he said. He was calling out why people don't like conflict. And there was a guy that says, I don't have
Mm,
conflict because I don't have a wife, I don't have a partner. I just go to work and I go home lonely. And he said, you've set your life up to be isolated so you don't have any conflict. So that's what that guy's
yes.
done. He set his life up
So
to
good.
say, I don't want pain, so I'll keep people out of it. How do we
Yes.
get to the point where we have people embrace pain? You're not allowed to
Right?
ask questions like that on this podcast.
Right?
I mean,
It's
that's
deep.
too
Me
deep.
too. I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling it right here. Like, damn,
I don't know.
what?
You guys throw something. Val, what do you think? That's a great
Well,
question.
if we go back to our concept, right? It's like, how do you find your mission? I think the part of the mission it comes through becoming that self-awareness. But if people are not doing that self-reflection and that self-awareness and that pain, then how are we going to have people who actually meet their mission? And so that's where the root of this question came from me. And I think part of it, I love how you said that because I've heard many examples of people who are like, I'm a healed version. I recognize my trigger, so I just won't hang around people who trigger me. But
Hmm.
to me, that's almost the opposite of what you're not leaning into
Hmm.
actually being able to self-regulate yourself. It has nothing,
Right.
if we go back to the concept that it has nothing to do with the people around you, then why would you do it even when it's uncomfortable? You would want to lean in and say, "Oh, this person triggered me, and what is that still reflecting in me?" I don't mean embrace all the people that trigger you and be like kumbaya and we're all gonna hang out.
What? I'll be
I think
fighting. No.
I think it's important to create those barriers, but I also think it's important to lean into those different concepts and those different missions and those different ideas because that's what creates this collaboration of we're all so uniquely made for a reason. And instead of saying, well, if you don't think the way that I think, then we're not the same as no,
Hmm.
if you don't think the way that I think, how do you challenge me? And how do I challenge you? And how do we embrace those two pieces? And I think that we're creating this idea on pain is ugly and it's horrific, you have to go through it, but I think if we start creating this culture almost like marketing it as like, hey, this is empowers you and it embraces you, and we start using these beautiful empowering words, then maybe we can move towards a society who has more clear understanding of one, their mission, of two, their pain, and in order to be able to flourish in that mission.
I'm going to push back on a set. No, everything you said is perfect. I'm
Oh,
going to
push
offer
back.
a different
Do
idea.
it.
Lena,
Yeah.
what do you want to say first before I jump in, though?
Oh no, I think it's great. I think go for it. I want you to
Okay.
continue with
Okay.
that thought.
Guys, we got to do this again. Like, I'm looking at the
I
clock. We got
know
8 minutes.
time is running out.
But seriously, like, so once we get off, we're gonna find another thing we can do before this semester is up. We got to do this again. We could talk forever.
Totally.
Okay, I would want to say this. Very few people will experience greatness because very few people will do what you just talked about. Everything you said is right,
Mhm.
Val, everything you said, but very few
Mhm.
people will do the work to actually this is why most lives, I'm just going to say it, most people live mediocre lives because they don't want to
Mm,
embrace the suck, they don't want to embrace the pain. So everything you said is
mm,
great, but how do we, I don't know if we can actually mass produce that, and because most people live, you know lives of what, quiet desperation. We've heard that before, but I
mm,
think most people want to just be and watch their TV shows at night and drink their Starbucks in the morning and go to a concert every now and then on a weekend, and that's the life they want, and it's
Mhm.
easy.
and and I think I completely agree with you. And I think I'll set this token in that as well. Is if we're talking about this act of service, right? And giving people tokens, I think that that's exactly what we're doing here is we're just giving fruit. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to come to the table and eat it. And I don't think it's everyone's mission and purpose to eat that fruit. But
Yeah.
I think if we're coming to this concept of what my mission is or what I aligned with is that, right? I think if I have the fruit and I can give people the tools and I set it on the table, the person who's going to want to eat is going to eat those fruits. And so 100%, not everyone's going to eat it. And that's what makes this society function, is not everyone's going to fulfill that full potential. But I think if I have a different lens and a vision that can help people come to that water and at least just place it there and have them take it at their own free will, then I think I'm one step closer to what I feel like is the purpose that I was placed here to complete.
And I'll add a little something here.
Go, Lena, go.
Do not underestimate that each and every one of you has something unique, valuable, and purposeful to bring to not only your own mission, but to the world. Don't ever doubt that. Doesn't matter if you're a fruit eater or not.
You can take that about 3 different ways. But here's what I would say. If you're, and I'm going to say this to our class, if you're not willing to embrace the pain, you're not going to have that. You'll never see full potential if you know what I'm saying? And I know I can say this because I'm talking to 2 people who have embraced pain in life, who run through it, who move through it strategically. But this is my biggest fear for so many people in life. They don't want the pain, right? So the purpose is like the purpose, the vision, the mission, everything we're talking about right now is on the other side of that.
It is on the other side of it.
It's on the other side of it. Jack, what's his, he wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Jack, I forget. You know what I'm talking about, Lena. Jack Canfield.
I was going to say Campbell soup. I don't know. What?
Jack Canfield. He says everything you want is on the other side of pain or fear. It's one of those 2 words, right? Most people will not experience their mission because they don't want the fear or the pain.
Or on this other side of the work that you're avoiding to do.
Other side of the work that you're avoiding. And why do people avoid that work?
Because of the pain.
Because of the pain. It's really hard. So, okay, we got to wrap our time down, and I really can't stand this. So we're going to do this again, all right? So when we get off, we'll figure out another time. What's the final thought and the question? You guys don't have to answer this question. You already got points for this, but what's the question or 2 questions we want to leave? And I'll leave it up to you guys to decide what are the questions we want to leave for the people who are watching this today, for our fellow comrades in the leadership business programs.
Gosh, that's a tough one. Oh, I have so many questions for everybody. I can't think. I don't want to force a question because I'm worried about the impact of
it. They don't want to throw you under the bus. They're not trying to make it. Val, you got something stewing in your head right now. I can see it.
Yeah. I think in correlation to what we're talking about is take a moment to reflect. What is the pain or the work that you're avoiding to do in your life? And how do you start to actually take the steps to look and reflect and start doing the pain and the work that you don't want to do? So that's one of the questions. And I think the second question is, and this goes into Lena, is like, we all have something we're good at. We all have something that we're just fruitful in our mission and our purpose. And so take a step and think about, what is that for you? What is that little fruit that makes you flow, that makes you feel like, hey, this feels effortless to me, and it feels great when I do it. And I know that if I keep establishing this, that this will create in service of something else or to someone else. So I would say those 2 little gems of reflections.
Those are 2 great, and those are going to be our questions. And it reminds me of the book, and I'm sitting around here somewhere. Ray Dalio has a great book called Principles, and he says it's pain plus pain plus reflection equals progress. Pain plus reflection equals progress, right? So as you're taking time to do this, class, know this is good, and it's going to lead into what we're going to do next week, which is no podcast, but there's going to be some reflective work you get a chance to do. In our last 2 minutes here, I want to give it to Val and Lena. Give us some final thoughts, whatever you want to say. It can be around this or anything you want to say to the class before we go today.
My thoughts are just remember to be kind to yourself. When you're kind to yourself, it will be easy to sort of accept what life has coming for you, and, just always think about moving forward and push through fears and enjoy life, take risks, and above everything else, just be kind to yourself. That's where we can start. That's
so good. Thank you, Lena.
That's so good. Yeah. Because sometimes I get so into the logical brain that I forget about that essential piece, which is having the grace, being gentle with ourselves, and being kind. So that's really important. And I would say, ooh, how do I meet that one? That one was good. See, now she said I got one.
Be humble. Be humble. That'll be the. No, I'm just kidding.
As I'm dancing to my contribution.
Like,
I'm just kidding.
I would say don't rush your experience.
Mm-hmm.
You're exactly where you need to be.
So good.
And
together. Yes.
I would say I learned this word, and it's Latin for amor fati, which means that you're in alignment to your faith. So whether that is if you feel like, oh, I'm too late, I should have done that a long time ago, or oh my gosh, I need to speed up time because it's time is running out. You're just take a breath, be present, be still, and allow exactly where that vision, those reflection pieces are coming, and listen to that intuition and allow that to guide you into the next falling step or season of your life. That would be my token.
This is beautiful. You've heard it here on the podcast, Prof. JC Leadership Podcast. Thank you all for listening. You'll find the questions a couple minutes back. Make sure you listen to the whole thing. This is going to be good. Lena, Val, thank you for joining me today. This has been awesome. And we're going to do this again before the end of the semester.
Always a great time.
Always a great time. Thank you. Thank you, class. Thank you for allowing us to be part of this and part of your experiences. We are honored.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.